Plotting. We're now going to go through various types of plotting out of 12D. Firstly, we're going to create a new plan view called Plot. So we select the option View, Create, Plan View, and we're just going to change the default number to the word Plot and select Create. Okay, so we're going to turn on all the models that we're going to be plotting. Now this will actually be all of them except for the actual tin, because we'll generate our own label contours. Okay, so we're going to go through a few things here, and they don't necessarily have to be in any specific order. So we'll start off with the feature labeling. So the points in the survey can be labeled according to their names or codes, and the labeling can be text such as heights, codes, and point numbers. So let's have a look at the label map file firstly. If we select File, Label Map Files, Create Edit. If we click on the Label Map File folder icon, select Browse, and just go back up to Getting Started, and you'll see a file there, Getting Started V14 label. So double click and then select Read. Firstly, let's look at the height text data. So we click on the height text data branch. We'll just widen it out. So here we've got a list of the names in the survey. We've got a style for the text that's going to come up, a precision, and a label name. With the text styles, if we were to double click on one, you'll see that we've got our text style data here, which can be edited. The names will be similar, and if we look at the vertex attributes, here we've got some slightly different types of things, where if we're looking at the diameter of a pipe, we can also have the suffix of the actual pipe diameter. So it'll be whatever the diameter is with the suffix M and then the diameter symbol. Okay, so let's finish on this panel and let's run the label map file. So we select the option File, Label Map Files, Apply. We select the View icon and select View Plot. We select the label map file that we just looked at, browse, and back up to Getting Started, and double click on Getting Started. Now in this panel here, we're not going to use the model names for the labels. We're going to use a prefixing structure which will split up the labels for each particular model. So it makes it a lot easier then for the client to then turn the information on and off. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to have the point IDs, and we're going to have a prefix which in lowercase will be txt space ptno space. So the reason for the lowercase is to put it at the bottom of the model listing to make it easier to access. The height will be txt space ht space, and the code or name will be txt space cd space. For the attributes, if we type in txt space att space. Right, okay, so select label. Now prior to turning on the labels, we're just going to delete any empty models, that's models with no data, that were created using this option. So we select the option Models, Delete, Delete Empty, Unlock Models, and you'll see there's some models have been created here even though there's no data there. So select Delete All and then Finish. Let's have a look at some examples of what we've done. So we can finish on this panel now. If we zoom into these trees here, let's turn on some attributes. So let's turn on the text attributes for our vegetation. Okay, so the text attributes were basically comments that were put in as part of the actual survey, and they were applied to one of the trees. So this one would have been applied to this tree here, This one would have been applied here. So it's a good way of being able to automatically put text on the screen, and then you could move these around if you wanted to. Now it's very important at this point to set the actual plot scale of the proposed plot. That way it will ensure that the text looks at the correct scale. So to do this, we select the Properties button, we select Settings, and we change the plot scale to 500 and click Finish. You'll see now that the text is actually reduced, and that is exactly how it will look like when plotted out at 1 to 500. Okay, now let's create some smooth label contours. The contours we saw previously were called fast contours, and they were just basically graphical contours just to give you an indication of the slope of the ground. They weren't editable and they didn't have labels. So for plotting we create proper labeled contours. So to do this we select Tins, Contour, Contour, Smooth and Label. It has a function name, which means it can be reprocessed at any time. So in uppercase we're just going to type in contour space ground. The tin we're going to contour will be the ground tin, and we're going to give them some model names. So for the minor contours we're just going to type in contour minor. We're going to leave the contour increment at 1 meter, and we'll change the colour to say red. We're also going to tick smooth contours. For the major contours we're going to type in the model contour major. The major increment we'll leave as 5, and we'll change the colour to magenta. We're going to leave the range unaltered. We now move on to the Labels tab. We're going to be labelling just the major contours. We then type in a model name for the actual contour labels. The label method is going to be centered line read from below. The number of decimal places will be 0 because our major contour interval is 5. If we select the text style data, we'll have it as text whiteout 2.5. So this is then going to white out anything below the label, so which will white out part of the contour line. We're going to set the start distance to 30 and the separation to 30. Okay, so let's select process, and we won't exit the panel yet until we've seen the result. So let's go to our plus button and turn on the 3 new models. Also you'll find that the label doesn't seem to be whiting out what's below it. So here we simply change the model order. So we select Properties, Models, and we change the label order. So we just put that to the bottom. And you'll see now that it's whiting out what's below it, and whether it's a bank or whatever other feature. The advantage of this is that the contour line itself is still one complete line. So if we press F2, click on the line, you'll see that it then is one complete line, so ensuring that it exports cleanly. Okay, so we'll just close this panel. The next thing we can do is look at adding text. So there's lots of different ways of adding text in, so we'll just look at a couple of very simple ways. Firstly, what we need to do is set up the CAD control bar, because this will dictate what model the text will be going into. So up the top here we're just going to change the name, so we're just going to manually type in text. The model can be text as well. We'll make the colour magenta. Now the line style will be 1. Okay, so over where it says text style, we select that, and we're going to again use text whiteout 2.5. Okay, so that's set up the parameters for the text. Right, so there's a number of ways again of putting the text in. We're just going to simply use the CAD text commands, the flyout toolbar, and the second one out says create. So we can just simply pick anywhere on the screen initially, pick and accept, and a dialog box will pop up, so we'll just type in a name and select OK. When you type the text in, you automatically have the ability to edit the text. If we were to just press escape to edit the text, we can simply go back to the flyout toolbar and use the first option, edit. We then pick at the insertion point of the text, which is usually the bottom left, and accept. And again we have the options to edit the text. So some of these ones are this L shape, the top block there. If you click on that, you can then change the scale of the text, or you can physically type in the actual height. So we'll just press escape on that once. You can also move the text. Now when you go to move the text, if you select the V key on the keyboard, it will ensure that it only moves the vertex. Now when you pick on the text, it may highlight a line, that's okay. So just select middle click, and now you can see you're moving the text. So it's actually moving the insertion point, and we could move it to say there, pick and accept. Rotating the text is simply a matter of clicking on the end lock on the right hand side, and we can rotate. We also have the option to make it tangential to another string or perpendicular. To make it tangential to the road center line, we simply click the T on the keyboard, and then we click on the road center line and accept. And now the text is tangential to the road. If you just roll the mouse slightly, you'll see that any sort of ghosting from the previous position is taken care of. Okay, so we'll just move that up a little bit more central. Left click, middle click, and escape. We press escape a second time just to get right out of the edit text option. The other thing we can do is we can place a grid on the screen. Firstly, if we go to our toggle button and select grid, you'll see that the grid has a default spacing of 100 meters. We can actually set up the properties of the grid using the properties icon. If we select grid, we can then change features. Here we might change the grid spacing to 50 for X and Y. The grid color is dark green, the text at the bottom. We can also change our style if we like to say Arial. We can also give the text values description, so I could type in capital E star lowercase m, so it will be E, whatever the value is, and then m for meters afterwards. We can do the same for the Y value, N star lowercase m. So we'll leave the size as 10. The plot height will be 2 millimeters. We change the color to dark green and set the cross size in pixels to 5 and the cross plot size to 1 millimeter. Okay, select finish. Now you can see over here now, you can see the northings have N, then the value, then a small m, and the eastings have E, then the value, then a small m. Okay, so let's do some examples of some plots. The first one we're going to do is a quick sheet plot. So what we're going to do first off is we're going to zoom into the eastern pond here. We then use the option, the printer icon, and select quick sheet plot. The view we're going to be plotting out will be the plot view, and we're just going to send it to a model initially, and we'll give the model a name, preview quick plot. We always clean any plot models that we're doing, so we'll just say clean all elements. The scale will change to 500. Now as soon as you do that, you'll see the actual plot frame change size. We can select the origin button and we can just pick a new position and you'll see that it moves. Alternatively, you can select the origin button down the bottom left and you can actually move it around with the cursor. Left click, middle click. So for this example, we're just going to type in the actual coordinates. So we'll just type in 432,800 for the X and 7236930 for the Y. Okay, so the text style will be Arial. This is for a very basic little title file. The title line 1 will be preview plot of, then just tab down to the next screen, Eastern Pond, and we'll make the title color white and select plot. We're now going to create a new view called preview. So if we select view, create, plan view, and we're just going to type in preview for the name, create, and we'll maximize this view, and we can turn on the model of the preview plot we just performed, and there it is there. Once that looks okay, we could also send it out to a PDF file. So we'll just go back to the plot view. We can change the plotter type to 12D PDF 12D and simply select plot. And here we see a PDF plot. Right, we can finish on this panel. The next thing we're going to look at is creating a plot using a plot frame. So we just zoom out a bit. Okay, so we use the option plot, plot frames, create. We pick the title file. So if we go browse, and then we go back up to getting started and pick sample A1 plan. We change the scale to 500. And we're just going to select an origin point. So we'll just pick somewhere down here and select create. Now if we go to our plus button, we can turn on the plot frame model. We can then move it to the position that we require and then click set, finish. We can now plot this out. So we select the printer icon again, and this time we select plot frames. We have a plot parameter file preset. So if we select the folder icon, browse, and go up to getting started, you'll see survey plot and select read. So this one is going to be sent to a PDF file called plot preview. If we click on title block, you'll see that we're using a title block file. If we click on the plus beside title block and select user title block, then some information has been pre-populated in the title area. If we select symbols, we've selected a north point, little circular north point, which will sit down near the title block, and it's automatically going to rotate where north is. If we go back to plot frame, prior to sending out the plot, we're just going to save away a new plot parameter file. So if we click on the folder icon and select browse reset, we're going to then type in a new plot file name plan plot. Click open and then select write. Let's select plot to create our PDF plot. So here you see the plot with the plot frame, the title file area, and the contour labels sit above the other features.